Kerry, I've never been this close to you. You know, I've seen you on stage, I've seen you in pictures, and your tattoo work is amazing, phenomenal. Is this all Paul Booth or other artists?
This side's Paul Booth.
I love it.
Paul, he finished this dude, and then, you know, we just went on and on and on, and I'm on tour, and he goes to Europe and Japan, and, you know, we just can't get together as much as we'd like to. So the only one that's was done was this one, but when he comes back and finishes everybody else, he might touch that guy up too, you know.
Yeah.
It'll just be a different look.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm not on tour, so I haven't got my arm hair gone. That's like my warrior look when I'm on tour. Gotta get rid of the hair because I gotta show off the tats.
Oh, okay, cool. And do you just let him kind of go, or do you have a vision of what you're looking?
I totally let him go.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome, beautiful stuff.
He's a sick freak.
And you know what I think is great is that these tats end up on the graphics on your guitars as well.
Mostly the tribal stuff. We were talking about Bernie Rico earlier.
Right.
And Bernie Rico Jr., it was his idea to put the tribal, incorporate that into the guitars. It was his idea, and kind of ran with it. And, you know, now all my BC Riches have that stuff. Now I've got stuff on Dunlop. I got a couple pedals. I got strings coming out this January's NAMM show, and it's all got my hand tattoo on it.
Very cool.
So they ran like a little promotion, and the head.
Right,
the head's
new
got,
Marshall head.
Yep. It's all, you know, it's kind of cool because people look at this, they think of me. You know, it's kind of like what the nails used to represent.
Right.
And I still wear those from time to time, but this has become what it is, and it's like every product I put out, it's got the tribal on it.
We all love the armbands with the spikes, you know, standard little pyramid spikes, but you had actual full-on nails coming out.
Yeah.
That's out of control. I think you were the first guy to do that.
That's a good story. We played a show, I believe it was the Roxy, and we never really hit Hollywood that much, but we were playing with, it was us, it was Bitch, and somebody else. But Bitch, they had a bass player, and he came out with like leg gauntlets and arm gauntlets. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know the dude. You know, he was an acquaintance. I debuted the nails that day. He debuted all those that day. His were like that big.
Right.
You know, it was kind of like how I describe what we do in Slayer. It's like riding the line between incredibly heavy and ridiculous. And you got to know what that line is. Because a lot of bands go over that line in their music and their tempo, whatever. Right. But at that point, there was a 2.5-inch nail, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know, if I go any bigger, it's kind of ridiculous, so I don't want to do it. And I just killed him in a 1-2 punch without even thinking about it.
Right.
And even though in the early days I wore it for most of the set, now you'll see it like first 2 songs, you might see it as an encore, because we're playing more intricate stuff, and my tendons don't like being wrapped up.
Right.
You know, people say, hey, why don't you wear the nails all the time? It's like, well, you know, we're playing harder stuff than we did back then, and it can't happen. King don't touch your retics.
Wow.
I mean, they're so strong. It's amazing how strong they are. And so many of my friends get hit, and their tendons get ripped.
Wow.
And I can't do that.
Yeah, sure. It's your career.
I can't.
Yeah. And what would you feed a snake like that?
Pretty much anything it wants.
Randy was very funny sometimes. One of the things, he didn't drink much, but when he would have a drink, or he'd have his little pig-nose amplifier, and he'd go to, I remember one time in Canada, and there was a guy playing a piano in the bar, and it was all classical stuff, and then Randy whispers in his ear and he asks him if he can go and get a guitar and play with him.
Wow.
So, the guy goes, sure. But he comes out with a little pig nose and he starts playing his white Les Paul, I think. And he's doing all the guy's like, wow, you know what you're doing, you know.
Right,
but then he starts doing all these shapes and rock and roll shapes. Hysterical. I mean, I still can't believe he's gone, to be honest with you.
Did you think that those albums and his playing were going to have such a huge impact on metal? And
well, you know what? It's like, it's such a long time ago, and it was. People say to me, "What's your best ever album?" And I go, "I haven't made it yet." Because if I say it was Blizzard of Ozzy and then Bark at the Moon and so on and so on, that means to say to me that every album I've done after that wasn't any good. You know? So for my own sake, I'm always striving, you know. I mean, it was just a fun period in my life.
What about Ozfest 2008? is it in the
But you have
works?
to speak to my mentor about that.
Yeah.
She comes up with these ideas and I go, oh yeah. Then the next day, it's changed again. So I get my head in a vice because it's like, I don't know what she's going to do yet. I want to make another record, not as long as it took this one. But, you know, down to earth, and this one's 6 years. I didn't realise it was that one.
Ozzy, one of my favorite things as a kid was the US Festival, 1983, and it was just has become such a historic moment in heavy metal history. And I wanted to ask you about your memories of playing that festival.
My wife had got me this Zulu suit thing, the bone through. I don't know. I can't. But the one thing that was bad about that was there were so many people and not adequate enough toilets or drinking water, and that's always been my thing with the Ozfest. Because I mean, to stand out in that weather all day long, that was a desert.
Right.
I mean, it's people got killed there, people got run over, people got disappeared, and you got. Well, one thing that sticks out in my mind, Van Halen had they were headlining, and they had a clause in their contract that no one on the event could have a higher salary than they. They've got to be compatible. So Bowie got $1 million, but at that time it was an awful lot of money to get, you know. To be normal, Dave Lee Roth was out of it, you know. But hey, I'm not slagging him. I've done bad. He's got worse things, you know. I'm not an angel.
When they offered you the job there, did you still have dreams of being like a full-time professional drummer?
Yeah, the thing is, and I hate to, dash anybody's dreams of being, a full-time musician, but it's so hard, especially nowadays. I always thought that if you have an album out, you go on tour, that's what you get to do for the rest of your life. And for me, I'd go on tour for about 2 or 3 months a year and have the time of my life, just have so much fun. And it was so hard for me to come back to a day job after that. And I really got kind of, after a while, I just started getting down on myself thinking, am I ever going to be able to do music full time? And I always wanted to, but when I got the offer and the chance to work with Howard, I knew it was going to be a day job that I loved.
Yeah.
And, I would have loved to have been able to play music full time, but it's just, unless you're selling a lot of albums, it's really, really hard to do that.
I went to see Ace Frehley play, and even though you guys had just come out, the insiders knew about you. And I remember Ace had pants on that had guns on them, and he had a t-shirt on that had roses. And he went, "Look at me, John." He goes, "Guns and Roses." And that was September '87.
That sounds like Ace. I did not know that. I had no idea Ace even knew who we were until...
Yeah, he absolutely did.
He has that way about him where it's like, oh, yeah, you guys, yeah, whatever.
No, he loved you back then.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, there's been some rumors that you are actually thinking about doing a solo record at some point. I wanted to ask you about that, if it's true, and what
Well,
might we
I
expect?
definitely want to do a solo record at some point very soon. I just haven't, with Velvet Revolver, that takes up all your time. So
Sure.
as soon as that takes a break, which we want to go in and do a third record, so that's the priority. And then I guess when the dust clears on that one, then I'll start putting the solo record together. But I'm sort of, like compiling ideas. Some stuff will get used for Velvet, and then the other stuff that doesn't, it's just sitting. If it's the right song and whatnot, then I'll start, sort of going through that leftover stuff and see if anything's appropriate.
Cool. And you've had 2 great records with Velvet Revolver and with Scott. And do you ever think about, there were so many big name singers that were rumored to be attached to you guys. You talk about some of them in the book, like Sebastian Bach and even Asbury from the Cult. Do you ever think about what if we went with one of these other guys, or has it just been so right with Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Scott was actually the main. Like, we had a very short list of great singers that were well known, that had high-profile professional careers. It was a very short list, and he was at the top of that list. But he was, more or less unobtainable because he was still in STP and all that. So the other guys, it was something. It wasn't anything against the actual singers themselves, or it was just a style. It was something that we were definitely wanted a certain kind of a sound. We didn't know exactly what that was, but certain singers just brought something into it that wasn't just quite right. Mm-hmm. So when Scott came in, that was it, and I never looked back after that.
Now, one of the things that I thought was cool, and I just have to bring this up, I know it's kind of possibly a negative thing, but I read it in your great new book, Slash, and I love it. because nobody talks about this anymore, but cassettes. You were totally into cassettes.
Oh, yeah.
And what I think is crazy is that you were somehow able to like pack these all in your body and your pants, and you would like, you know, start out with a live record and then you'd
Get the catalog.
get the whole catalog. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty ambitious. You know, if I wanted something, I would figure out how to get it. And cassettes were very convenient, and I figured out ways. You know, it started out with a few, and then it ended up being a lot, up until the point that I got popped for stealing them, and that sort of.
Right. Was that at Tower?
That was at Tower, yeah. And I ended up getting a job there. Later,
Right, which
yeah,
is
funny.
totally wild.
I've worked with so many other like rock and roll and just music icons. I mean, Iggy Pop.
Yeah, Iggy's great.
Memories of that. You were in the video and everything.
Yeah.
That was it? What was it?
Actually,
Home,
that
was it?
started. Yeah, it was the song. The video was Home. Yeah, Home. And then there was like 4 songs on the record, but that all started here at the Rainbow.
Did it really?
Duff and I met Iggy here, and he brought his demo tape, and it was just Iggy on acoustic, and he asked us if we'd be interested in playing on it, which of course was like a huge, you know, thing for Duff and I. Since,
definitely.
You know. So we hooked up with Don Was and Iggy at a studio in Hollywood after that, and sort of worked up these 4 songs of his. And it was a great experience. I mean, Iggy sort of epitomizes the kind of rock and roll that I was weaned on. You know?
Right.
So.
Michael Jackson. You worked with
Michael's
him, too.
Michael's another one. I mean, in his own way. I remember being a kid and listening to Dancing Machine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's badass. You know, as
Yeah.
crazy as Michael's existence obviously is, as an artist, he's one of the most amazing performers and most talented, entertainers, singers, dancers I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
Do you ever have contact with him anymore?
I haven't seen him ever since everything went completely haywire with him. I haven't seen him. I saw him towards the beginning of it over at Robert Evans' house. And they were talking about doing a movie, and then the just went wide open after that. Wow. So I haven't seen him since. He's been sort of a recluse. I think he was living in Dubai or something.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
There was one move that I was pretty known for, which was a combination. They don't call them Grassies anymore, but you remember Grassi?
Right.
And it was a combination of that and 180, and everybody used to dig it, but it wasn't something that I copped from anybody. It was just something that I made up, and it was very sort of a spontaneous thing that I just felt comfortable doing. So, but now guys are doing stuff that's so like gravity defying. It's unreal.
Right.
I don't know. I never came up with a name for it. We used to call it the Grundy back in the day, because that was my nickname back then. Just like Slash, it was something that, because of all the people you hang out with, everybody starts to call you that. It just turned. I know Solomon Grundy. That was where it came from. Born on Monday, something.
So Slash, there's so much cool stuff here in the Rainbow, and are there any items that mean something to you here?
There's a couple different things, but the coolest one is this guitar up here, which I demolished shooting. I think it was the Don't Cry video, and I threw it off a cliff. And
Now, how did they get it back?
I brought it back to them in pieces in that case that's
blue
underneath
case.
it, and somehow they managed to piece it together. It looks pretty good compared to what it looked like when I first gave it back to them. The neck broke. You can see
I can see it right
and then
there.
the whole bottom of the body came off and whatnot.
And I like it says "Oops" on it.
Yeah. Well, it was all in good fun, right?
Very cool. The cool thing is that I know this, but I don't know if all of our listeners and viewers know this, is that the name came from you guys being in the studio and from a box.
Yep.
There was an amp box, and tell us about that.
It's a true story, man. It's really weird, you know. We had all different names that were floating around, and we were about 5 songs into writing the record, you know. And we were like, what are we gonna do? You know, we always said hell yeah around the studio all the time. And there was this amp box that was outside of the studio that one of the amps was shipped down in. And Chad goes, whatever you think of, just write it on that box. I don't care if it's green pencil, you know, army plane, tank, whatever. Write it on there and we'll come up with a band name. And a couple days later, he walked by there and somebody had written Hellyeah on there. Nobody knows who wrote it.
Wow, I was gonna ask
yeah,
that.
that was the weird thing about it. And he just went bingo, and he called us all outside and he goes, Hellyeah, that's the name of the band. We all looked at each other and went, hell yeah, it's perfect, man. It's attitude, you know, that was the whole idea behind Hellyeah, you know, it's a very affirmative way of saying yes, you know, it's positive.
I'm surprised that somebody didn't make claim to it yet.
We were too, trust me.
Wow.
We got in there and did all the trademark searches and everything. We went, wow, we must be geniuses. That's the name. Number 3 Kiss album is the first record I've ever owned in my life, and I'm talking vinyl. The real thing was Kiss Alive.
That's good. Number 2, I'd have to say Dynasty.
And number one, because they look so damn cool on the cover, Dressed to Kill. Let's do it.
Yeah.
There isn't a bigger Kiss fan. Like, the bigger Kiss fans than me might be in this room. When we used to film Oz, I used to hang out with Chuck Zito. We used to share a trailer together. I was sound asleep. I was like deep in a drooling dream. And poof, somebody kicks the door to my trailer open. And I look up and it's Peter Criss. He goes, Evan from Biohazard, it's me, Peter Criss from Kiss. Wow. I was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm on the show. I got a part. He goes, you gotta read with me. He goes, I love what you've done with your character and I want to develop mine. He's like, Gene and Paul. You know what they told me? You, Peter, you're out of the band. He goes, so I'm gonna show them a thing or two. I'm gonna blow up my acting career. I don't need them. And I start looking at the script with him and I'm reading the part. It's his first episode. I've been on the show a few years and I know what's happening because I know the way they write the show and he's getting set up. Right. And he's going on and he feels like he wants to do the show for 3 or 4 years before he starts moving into feature films.
You can already tell.
I see, he's got scenes with all the wrong guys because it's a creepy show about, the thing about Oz was you never had a secure job because they killed 3 or 4 guys every episode on a quiet day. I see he's getting set up and I'm like, oh man, I don't have the heart to break it to him that the way they're writing this, he's not going to be around very long. I think it was his 3rd episode where they did him in. But Peter was great. If I was directing a feature film, and I would totally write a part for Peter Criss. First started the band, it was really metal and like hardcore and like, that's all it was. And it was like, we already had 4 guys in the band, and we didn't really have room with all the personalities for a singer. And I was just like, one day I was like, listen, I'll just sing for now until we find a singer. Mm-hmm. I bet a lot of bands have that happen. I wonder who else. I would love to see what other bands were on that list.
Of the bands.
And honestly, I wasn't very confident about my voice. And I felt very confident as a front man,
right.
But I didn't feel confident as a singer. And I said to myself, I was like, I don't think I ever cognitively said it. It was like subconsciously. I was like, well, if I just sing rhythmically, then, I could avoid having to like hold these big notes or like go for like a high note, And it kind of almost sounded like rapping, and like we grew up in Brooklyn. It was like disco and rap, and it was like part of it. It was all kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of bands like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, and even bands like Korn, a lot of bands named Biohazard as like a really big influence, and we were always like shocked, you know what I mean? Because it seemed so accidental. We were like, really, if you guys only knew,
Now, did it happen for you guys because it was your friends who you were hanging out with, like maybe Onyx or somebody from the New York area?
No, I mean, the stuff, bands and groups like Onyx, a lot of the hip hop groups kind of came to us.
Wow.
Because what we were doing was so real. Like I remember we were managed by Rush Management, which was Def Jam back in like around 90, 91, and I remember like all the rappers thinking that we were so wild. They were like, yo, these crazy white boys, yo, they go, they buck wild, there's like 1,000 people, they slam it, and we were just like, yeah, that's kind of what we do, Right. And I remember like the Honest guys, they were crazy. Like they came down with all their guys, and all they wanted to do was be in the mosh pit. Like they didn't care about anything. They were just like, this is the coolest, And it was cool to see somebody come in so open, especially when it's like cross cultures, you know what I mean? It was almost like a whole, the New York hardcore scene was multiracial, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was to see like these real rap guys come in and non-judgmental. They would stage diving. The first thing, Sticky Fingers got up on the stage and did a backflip off the stage, you know what I mean? He just wanted to, they just wanted to be part of it. And I think the collaborations and stuff like took it to the next level. But that was more like, okay, let's really bring some rappers in to rap with these guys who play music that has that kind of groove. But, really, what we were doing internally, that was not planned, So I guess all those soundtracks that came up too, like Judgment Night and things like that we became a part of. And, we later on collaborated with Cypress Hill a bunch of times, and Sendog guested on like 4 or 5 tracks over the years for Biohazard. But he's an amazingly talented rapper and a good friend of mine, but he's also the biggest rock fiend and metalhead ever.
Cool.
I have a funny Ozzy story, actually.
Cool.
We were in England, in London, and we were mixing a song. I forgot which one it was. And it was about 2 in the afternoon, and Ozzy was drunk, believe it or not. We stepped out of the room for a minute, and he totally like messed up the mix, and he was like, and this is back in the 80s, and he was like, oh, this is gonna fix it up for you, you know. So it was pretty cool. I mean, you know, since it was him doing it, it was all right. You know, we didn't get mad. It was like, hey, Ozzy messed up our mix. It's great.
Might have fixed it somehow.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
That guy's got some magic in him.
Yeah, I guess he saved us some time.
So was it good when you tried it out? Was it?
I think we had to adjust a few buttons, you know. I mean,
Every adjustment could be cool though, yeah.
But it wasn't bad. But it was just a little funny.
So how about that Ozzy the engineer working on the mix?
Yeah. I'm sure he's done that with other people's mixes. But that was good. It was a good time, you know. First time I ever met him, I think.
We were hanging out with these guys having some dinner, and this was right across the street from Long Beach Arena, a very famous place in Iron Maiden history.
A scream for me, Long Beach.
You know what was really cool to us? Bruce Dickinson.
What?
Came in the dressing room. We were playing Brixton in London, and he dropped off his kids for us to babysit him while we played a show. He was about to leave. He's like, I really can't stay for the show. Like, Bruce, you're not leaving until you get photos with every single one of us in payment.
You know, I wouldn't mind babysitting Bruce Dickinson's kids, but he'd have to repay me with a flight on that awesome Iron Maiden Eddie jet. You know about Bruce, he's a pilot, right, Mike?
Yeah, when Halford did the Iron Maiden Queensryche tour in 2000, 2001, Bruce was flying his own plane from places to places, and he says, you know what, why don't just take Jeff Tate and Rob Halford on the plane with me, and we'll all fly the 3 singers, and people were like, that's a good idea, Bruce, and then people were going, you know what, maybe it's not that good that 3 of one of the greatest singers of all time fly in the plane at the same time.
You know, heavy metal might almost be over if that plane.
You don't want like the Richie Valens.
We've seen
thing
that
going
story
on.
before.
Yeah. You gotta love Dave Grohl. And actually, he loves you. He's a fan of yours.
Believe it or not, Dave Grohl is actually an Ostronomy fan. The first time I met him, he came up to me and he said, hey man, you're great, I love you. And I said, you're talking to me? I said, what? How do you know me? He's like, you're the guy in the silver costume. I was like, I can't believe it. And then a couple days later, I ran into him wearing the silver costume. He hugged me. We played it on the podcast. He came up, you look great. So I have like about 4 fans. Dave Grohl is the #1 fan.
Who would be the other 3?
Vince Neil, Scott Ian, and Evan Seinfeld. All fans of the silver Ostronomy costume.
Good, I wanted to make sure you didn't include my name on that list.
No. Absolutely not.
We're here with Devildriver outside of the very historic arena, Long Beach Arena. Scream for me, Long Beach. What does that mean to you guys?
That means live after death.
Man, when I grew up, that was my favorite live record. Right there with Kiss Alive, but you know, Scream for me, Long Beach. I always knew those words, but I'd never been here, and I'm psyched to be here right now with a bunch of guys who are going to be taking the stage in there in a little bit. Des, you used to come here, Long Beach Arena, to see shows.
I did.
Any memories you can share with us?
Yeah, I saw the Guns N' Roses open for the Cult here. My friend went to go get beer, and then I didn't see him for like 6 hours left in the gig, so I just watched the whole thing myself. It was great, man. It's a great venue.
We saw Pantera, Static X, Slayer, and Scrape. Is there anyone else?
Slayer. People were shooting fireworks at the stage, and like they threatened to cancel the show like 3 times, like midway through. The drummer from Scrape got a firework launched into his kick drum. He like ignited a little bit.
Yes, that's rock.
So you guys did Download Fest 2007, and you were trying to get Guinness Book of World Record circle happening there, and they didn't go for it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it was whose idea? It was Miller's idea?
It was Mike's.
It was Mike's idea. So we finally ran with it, and we knew the pit was going to be big. We knew there was going to be 12 to 15, 20,000 kids in there. But they said that they couldn't come out because there was no way to define it. We think they were worried about the liability.
Yeah.
It's enough for us that they gave like a 6-page letter back to the record company why they couldn't do it. That was enough for us to be like, all right, you know.
Very
Plus,
cool.
if you view it on YouTube, you can see that it was massive anyway, so.
Nathan Cox did your video for free this time?
No, I wouldn't say for free.
Oh, not for free?
No,
Okay.
I would say, what happened with that is Nathan Cox did the first Cold Chamber video ever, and that was his first video ever. And now you can't get him to come to the table for less than $500,000.
Wow.
I know him, and I just called him and said, I really need the favor returned. So, you know, for a pittance of money, he came in and did what he did. It's the best video we have, so thank you, Nathan. After he did the Cold Chamber video, he went on to do Linkin Park, Korn, I mean, you name it. Really went on to do a spectacular career. He's got a great eye. And he had actually said to me, yeah, I was wondering how I could repay that. And I said, well, this is a good way. This is a good time to do it, so.
Who are some of your favorite bands growing up?
I have my old, you know, Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy and Iron Maiden, like Killswitch album and so on, and yeah, great inspiration for me.
Yeah. I think for me it started with Sweet, actually a compilation tape that I got from a friend, and I really dig that. So that was kind of my first introduction to rock music. And then I picked up a number of the Beast with Iron Maiden.
I know that you guys are big Maiden fans. Do you prefer, Paul Di'Anno or Bruce Dickinson? Like, what do you like?
Or I kind of like
Blaze, Bailey, right?
Yeah. I would say, me personally, the two first albums, of course, like, now I'm just like the fan that will say exactly the same thing about Soilwork. Like, the first albums are the best and blah, blah, blah. But Paul Di'Anno, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It was more of a punk vibe.
Yeah. Right.
Which was really cool. But, then again, Number of the Beast is really one of my faves.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk about some other bands. How about Black Sabbath? Tony Martin?
Glenn Hughes?
Ian Gillan, Ronnie James Dio.
Ozzy.
There was another guy named Ozzy.
I would say Dio.
Dio?
I don't know why, but that area, the Mob Rule album, man.
Heaven and Hell, yeah.
Have you guys caught Heaven and Hell on the recent tour?
No.
No, I bought the DVD, yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool, but I would love to see them live as well.
Excellent.
Okay, I got another one for you.
Go ahead.
Gary Sharon, Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth, Van Halen. Who do you like better?
Well,
David Lee Roth, for me.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Even though I kind of like the stuff that Sammy did as well.
Yeah, I like the Sammy stuff. I thought it was good. I mean,
I think he's a great singer. I like Montrose as well. It's good stuff.
And how about Deep Purple? Coverdale?
Gillan? We have different opinions.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know the name of the first singer of Deep Purple.
I think it was Rod Evans.
Yeah, wasn't
like
it?
In the 60s. I would say Gillan, and I know.
I would say Coverdale Hughes, yeah.
Wow.
And Glenn Hughes sang a lot of those vocals on the
Glenn
Burn
said
record,
that
too.
when he joined, at the same time Coverdale joined, it was almost like not really co-lead singers, but he was brought in to do a lot of singing as well.
Yeah.
In addition to the bass playing.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
If you go on the internet, you can see albums that Dio was releasing in the 50s, like with his. He was like 16. He had like some.
What was the name of it? Like Little Ronnie and the.
Something like
the
that.
Elves or something? Little Ronnie and the Beats. That's good.
Now, out of all of them, he did, seem to hang out a little more than the rest of the guys.
He throws down the hard.
He got Willie and Randy drunk.
Yeah, he bought us a bunch of drinks and
cool.
Gave me shit about my Ozzy sweatshirt.
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor too. He's cool.
There is like a controversy on how old he actually is. I don't know if you guys know that. But somebody found his high school yearbook, or his school gave him an award, and they put up a plaque that says graduated in this year.
Best guy of 1928.
So once they put up the plaque, I think there's no longer any dispute on how old.
Well, you go listen to him sing, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right. Really, the guy is awesome.
And he's a great performer too.
Yeah.
And I mean, the one thing a lot of people always talk about, obviously, and I know Mark, you probably get hit with this question all the time, but the fight on the Philadelphia DVD.
Yeah.
When you look back at that, you obviously smile now, or is it still kind of painful to watch that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, for us, I mean, things like that have happened before. That will probably happen again. Anybody that you talk to that's been in a band like this for as long as we've been doing will probably relate to that. Oh yeah, that's just like the time that so and so got. You know what I mean? Like, it happens, but we were just dumb enough to put it out on our DVD.
That's great, though. I mean, everybody just loves that. I mean, it's like
when I do
what does that say about everybody?
Yeah. That was a particularly just kind of, I think, tense time, just because of wherever we were in that touring cycle, or wherever we happened to be as people at that time. It was just kind of a bad couple months.
And the bus.
And something like that happened. So when I look back on it, I think about how much cooler things are right now. You know,
Right. Well, that's good.
Everyone's in a little bit better place and gets along better. But you know, you go through again. These 5 dudes that I've been hanging around for 12, 13 years or something like that. You're gonna go through stuff like that. It's not as big a deal as it might seem.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen stuff on YouTube or whatever. Oh, I can't believe they didn't break up after that. I mean, Randy and I were drinking a beer 5 minutes after.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
But I think that kind of thing does break up a lot of bands, you know, that don't have maybe the experience or the maturity that I don't know if that's the right word. But the experience that we have together.
The miles.
You know, and the thing that makes it more so than, you know, who won the fight or that, you know, that guy sucks or any of that. The thing, it's that kind of underdog vibe where, you know, you have to go through those kinds of hurdles to get to the end. And I think that's what people connect with. It's not about, I can't wait for the next Lamb of God to see who's beating you up.
Hopefully we don't draw blood again, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just like, you know, I don't know if you have brothers. I did. You probably have to fight. You know, you got fights with your brothers. You know,
they got the holidays coming.
Randy's like my brother. All these guys are. You know, sometimes it comes to that.
Is it tough when you guys go into the studio to do a new record to, you know, looking back at your past catalog and the history and the importance that so many critics and heavy metal historians have attached to Exodus past work to try to live up to that? And do you feel that pressure, or you just kind of go in and do it?
You know, I think we put more pressure on ourselves than anybody else, you know. We feel like, you know, we have to keep putting out quality albums. You know, we just want to, like, stay, you know, relevant. We don't want to be like that band from the 80s, you know, with these classic albums. You know, we don't mind it, but we want to continue to make classic albums now, you know.
We try to out-heavy each prior album with the new.
It's quite a task, but somehow I feel we're up to the job.
Now, I heard that you guys are already writing Exhibit B already.
Well, 4 songs are recorded. So.
Cool.
So we're almost halfway done with it. Now, when the song 5 gonna happen, your guess is as good as mine. But no touring schedule is gonna make it hard. We're probably gonna have to work in like little bits here and there in between tours, you know. But I better start writing some more riffs, I guess.
Now, did you? There's a lot of political themes on Exhibit A. Did you intend for it to be a political album?
No, I still don't really view it as that, but other people do, and that's cool. You know, every song just took it one at a time. I know we wanted to make something really dark and really, like, you know, epic and sinister. I think we accomplished it. You know?
Absolutely. Then, Rob, I know that you are writing, and you've written some lyrics on this record, and also you've written like a few tracks for Exhibit B already. So how's it working where you're writing riffs and you're writing lyrics?
It's killer. Actually, the one on Exhibit A, Lee wrote the riff with Gary, and they just gave it to me, and I just read 2 books in about 3 days, and then took all that information and wrote lyrics. You know, it's killer.
Cool. And then Lee's also writing as well. Like, what's it
slowly,
like?
But yes.
Yeah,
no, he's writing great stuff. Lee just he's real meticulous, and he likes to pick his stuff apart, you know, 1,000 times, and. You know, like, that song done yet? No, I'm still trying out variation number 110 of the same riff. I'm like, dude, number 1 was perfect.
Well, me and Lee wrote like 2 songs, right? And in the same time that it took Gary to write 12. So, you know what I mean? So that's just like the process that it took, you know, so.
Yeah. And I still, like, on some of it, I still have to push him to the finish line. Like, come on, it's done. Look, here's a chorus.
Forget it already, it's done.
Here's a chorus riff. Take that thing you're doing there, we'll add these breaks, we'll put it in the end, and we'll sustain the notes in the beginning, and yada, yada, and you've already finished it. No, it's not. Yes, it's done. If you just, you know, let me, like, point you in the right direction, you have it finished already.
Going on tour is just so cool because you get to just see, like, places that, you know, most people don't get a chance to go to.
Sometimes. A lot of times you can't see anything.
Oh, really? You just
it's kind
go
of
to the
misleading, though. A lot of people think I'm so jealous you've been here and you've been here, but I haven't seen anything. You know,
right, it's just like you
club
go to
in
the
a parking
gig
lot.
Right.
Sometimes you get
bar
lucky
next door,
and you get a day off, and then you're okay, but most of the time you don't really see it.
Most of the time, if you're going to a place for the first time, there's so much press that you can't get away at all.
Oh, okay.
It's the places that you've been 5 or 6 times that sometimes you can sneak away before sound check and kind of check out the city real fast.
Oh, that's cool. What are some of your favorite cities that you played in?
Tokyo, for sure.
Tokyo's killer.
Love Cologne, Germany.
You don't care about playing in Tokyo. You just care about buying toys in Tokyo.
When's the first time you saw Kiss?
wow. You know, I have not seen Kiss live. You know, I've listened to them tons, watched, you know, tons of the videos, and remember the cartoon? Yes. That was
the comic books or
awesome.
the Kiss Me
No,
So Bad
the
movie?
no, the actual. Shoot, it was it was the live action movie and the
Kiss Me
comic
So
books.
Bad,
Yeah.
right.
Oh gosh, I just couldn't wait to see that. Just when it would come on. That was when, you know, things would only come on once a year, you know,
Right.
and so then you just have to wait. Sort of like, you know, like when the Wizard of Oz would come on, you had to wait until next year to watch it. Yeah, that was like before VCRs and
TiVo.
You know.
You had 6 stations.
And you are old.
No.
How's the plot shopping going? Where do you want to be buried? Have you decided yet? You better pick fast. Time's running out.
Oh, wow.
Any of you guys Kiss fans too?
Sort of, kind of. I saw them when they did the reunion, the first reunion,
Right,
first
96,
reunion.
96,
Yeah. Makeup and everything. That was pretty awesome.
Right.
Very fun.
How about you guys?
Who's Kiss?
I thought it was kind of fun, kind of cool, but you know,
Not really, never got
never
into it.
became a super fan or anything. You know.
Yeah, I appreciate them definitely.
Yeah.
Especially because they wear weird things and have funny
Right.
guitars and there's sparks and pyro and.
Dude, I was kind of bummed out when Lick It Up came out. I was just like, oh, put the makeup back on. It was a bummer.
Yeah. What's your favorite Kiss record?
Lick It Up.
I like Lick It Up. I like
There's actually good songs on it.
Cider was on that.
Cider?
Right?
Dude, I think the 80s Kiss is sweet.
I like to. Here's the thing.
I just like the gimmick, though.
I'm the biggest Ace Frehley fan, but having said that, I do love the '80s version of Kiss.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That was when I was in Boston and going to Berkeley, and that's how Mark and I actually met.
We met because we were
You were both dressed like Gene Simmons in your class.
we both had matching Kiss makeup.
We were the only two people in the Berkeley cafeteria in Kiss makeup,
Yeah.
so I said, "Oh, okay, I'll come to see
Look at those losers.